just to thank all the panelists and the attendees who engaged through the sessions. This is a project that we are so thankful for putting together. We did this for the fun of it, for the heck of it, and just because this is a topic that we're so excited about. Just to wrap up today, we are so thankful for our first panel, talking with those who have immigrated from our homeland. A lot of those questions we might not often have the opportunity to talk about, or may not be platforms that we can hear through intergenerational experiences, and we're so thankful for having that experience. For the panel regarding Philippine identity and those struggles and the shame and all the trauma that we feel from not being Filipino enough, for being too Filipino, for not being the right color of skin to be accepted. And finally, our last panel that we just came out of, ran by Emily, regarding community and those importances of keeping a community together. So I'm going to pass the torch to Emily for her to have a few words and also maybe share her video.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to thank everybody so much, and for the organizers for making this event possible. I've definitely learned so much from the sessions that I have participated in, and I was so happy to moderate the last event. Like Anna just said, I will be sharing one of the videos that I made during my junior year in college. It was for a capstone project that I worked on, where I just wanted to look at the different experiences of Filipinos in America. And the video that I have shared is titled Filipinos in America, Misidentity and Mental Health. And basically what it's about is just like hearing like other Filipinos' perspectives of how we're often misrecognized as like anything but Filipino. I interviewed a bunch of my friends spanning from like Boston, California, Colorado, to even my friends in Hawaii. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm not sure if I have the settings to share my screen, or I'm not really sure how to do that. But if one of you guys could like share it, that would be great. Have you ever been misidentified or misrecognized as another ethnicity before?
Yes, a lot of times. Uber drivers, waiters, people on the street, like it happens. Other Asian people.
My whole life. Like literally everyone I've ever met thought I was Mexican. Like not one person has ever thought I was like Asian or Filipino in like any capacity.
I've definitely had people tell me that I didn't look Asian.
Parents would be like, "Are you Mexican?"
I've had like a customer tell me that I looked exotic, but he didn't know how to place it. And then I was like, "Oh, I'm Filipino." And then he was like, "Really?"
A lot of times when I was younger, I was mistaken as being Chinese, which is the stereotypical thought for people who are not Asian or Asian American.
Some people thought I was Chinese. I've had people think I was Hawaiian. I've had other people think I was Korean or Vietnamese or Japanese, and they just can't pinpoint the Filipino identity in me.
Every time I allow someone to say just think that I'm fully white and like not talk about my Filipino heritage at all, I do feel like a little bit like I'm disrespecting the past, like my past, my family's history, and like the struggles that they had to get here and to get me to be where I am today.
Growing up surrounded by my culture, I never really took it to heart. Like I was so confident in my self-identity at that time to really never question myself.
It just sucks because it's not like I can fix my face. I mean, I could, but why would I want to?
But I also think it's interesting that so many people don't know what Filipino is.
I also feel like people just shouldn't assume. Like, if you want to know, straight up ask. Don't, like, put your own label onto me. Filipinos are too mixed among other ethnicities or too immersed into a certain ethnicity that they can't really pinpoint what we're supposed to look like.
I know that I am, and like I don't have to prove it to anybody, but just years of hearing that and years of constantly having to like fight to like say that I'm Filipino, which I think is so dumb. Like it's just like made me internalize it, even though I do understand that like I still am.
But definitely it does affect people when they are first gen, to really make them question, like, if people see me this way, what do I see myself as? And that really does pose a problem with first generation Filipinos, is that they don't know how to self-identify, and it causes a lot of mental and identity issues for them.
Would you say that mental health is talked about in Filipino households?
Oh, definitely not. I would say it's definitely not talked about at all.
Hell no. Like, no, not at all.
It is not talked about in Filipino households, which is so ironic because everyone's in the medical field.
I feel like mental health is really often neglected.
I personally know that mental health should be like discussed in every household, but in a Filipino household, from my personal experience, I think it's like a taboo topic.
Growing up, whenever I was sad, I couldn't really talk to my parents about it because I feel like either my mom would just tell me to pray more, or she would just tell me about her experiences and what she's been through, and how, like, if she can get through that, then I can go through whatever small thing I was being sad about.
In Filipino families, they fail to realize that the certain standards they hold, the words that they say, really affects their children as an individual and how they operate. Anything we say or our reasoning would just be, backlash, or like they think we're talking back.
Therapy, it's something that's not really pushed by Filipino parents. They're going to be like, oh, this like a waste of money. Like, we can talk to you, blah, blah, blah. Why do you need to go to a therapist?
There's kind of like this idea where if something terrible didn't happen to you, then like you don't have a right to be like depressed or anxious or stuff. Like, they're like, you have it so well, like you're here, you have food, you have a roof over your head. Like, how can you like have mental illness issues?
It's definitely a generational thing where I think my parents weren't allowed to feel like they had any mental health problems, so they don't think that we are either.
The way that they grew up is all survival. There's no time to deconstruct feelings and emotions because, one, you don't have the knowledge of it, the scientific terms for it either. And so why speak on it if you don't know it?
It's like trying to talk to them about video games, that they won't understand it unless they've actually had a chance to really go through it. So that's why I think it's not really brought up, is because they never had a chance to really understand what people are going through with mental health issues.
There's this really bad habit of like avoiding confrontation or like things that make people uncomfortable, or this idea where if you can't see it, then it's not happening.
Filipinos can be very independent people, and they're not the type of people to be open about those types of feelings. They're the type of people to work hard and not complain.
Not so much checking on like, how are you doing? It's more like, you have to do this. You have to go to work. You have to go to work. You have this problem. Don't address it. Go to work, kind of thing.
The general rule is that when something undesirable happens to you, you gotta stay strong. You gotta always get back up. And that's what my parents have always taught me. Rarely do we think that we're depressed. We just keep going and going.
And I feel like as the younger, more American generation, it's our job to bring it up more, even though it makes them uncomfortable and they might find it disrespectful, but it's like, it's important to address,
So I think it's like a conversation that we're having now. And I think it helps too, because we are in the States where the conversation is much larger than it would be in the Philippines. But if I never brought it up, or like anybody brought it up, I don't think it would have been spoken about at all.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to share that with all of you. Yeah, I really just like made that project hoping to like bring some awareness to like the issues of mental health, and I really hope that this can like spark a conversation within like our own families and in our communities, and also just like from the beginning part of like just being misrecognized and like misidentified, just knowing that like at the end of the day, like our identity as Filipinos, we are who we are to everyone, and like we have the power to define who we are, and we don't have to succumb to like what other people think of us. And yeah, I just thank you all so much for giving me that opportunity to share that. And again, thank you so much for making this event and like this conference. I truly, truly appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Emily. Before we end off our conference, we're going to have a few words from the organizers of Balik Tanaw. I wanted to first personally thank our sponsors, the UH Manoa Ilocano Program, Filipino Program, Seed Ideas, the Filipino Junior Chamber of Commerce, and then for these individual people who helped with the planning and execution of Balik Tanaw, Lalaine Ignao, Manang Agnes Malate, Manong Dean Domingo, Manang Tiffany Salvador, Dr. Roderick Labrador, Manang Ellen Ray Cachola, Megan Ramones, Manang Rebecca Goldschmidt, and Emily Cristobal, who just shared her video. To all of you, salamat and agyaman kami launay. I just wanted to talk a little personally first. I had a great time listening to all of the speakers and panelists, and I feel that some things that I'll personally take away from this conference is that one, decolonization is building, and that secondly, it's okay to have an opinion and speak up. And I hope to continue helping to create spaces like Balik Tanaw in the future in planting and fertilizing more okra. Now I want to introduce someone who has been my mentor since I began college and has helped us in planning this conference, who will give some closing remarks as well, Manong Dean Domingo, who is coordinator and instructor of the Ilocano Language and Literature Program at UH Manoa, and the Timpuyog Organization co-advisor. Manong Dean, if you want to share your video and audio.
All right. Can everyone see me? Is it working?
I can see you, Manu.
All right. Aloha, everyone. Okay. Naimbangal daw yung amin. My name is Dean Domingo, and I'm the Ilocano Language, Literature, and Culture Program Coordinator, as well as an instructor in the program. I would like to conclude this year's Balik Tanaw conference with a few thoughts learned these past 2 days and how that fits into the overall theme of the event. I would like to share a term with all of you, and that term is apo. The Ilocano language is very rich, and by this I mean one term can have many meanings. The first definition of apo is it's a title of respect. The second definition, it's a term for the divinity, a term of reverence for important objects in nature that has animate qualities. Third definition, a grandparent. Fourth definition, a grandchild. You may be, where's he going with this? Well, let me put it into perspective and tie it in with everything that covered these past 2 days. We acknowledged Apo Daga. We took a moment of silence and asked for permission from the land itself. We were able to look back to our roots and our past with sharing of so many stories from our panelists in the various sessions. As we attended these sessions, we learned about our roots here in Hawaii and how many of our Apos, grandparents, came to the islands to work on the plantation fields and eventually laid their foundations here on the islands, which led to the increase of the Filipino population. We learned about how it was difficult for some immigrants to settle here due to various reasons, such as being taken advantage of, which made them question their cultural identity and finding their voices. We also learned about the healthcare disparities Filipinos face. Reflecting on the past and sharing our stories of experiences will help us understand our now, the present. What we do in this present day will greatly affect the future of our very own apos, grandchildren. Our present will be their history. They will look back and reflect on the things we did and see our struggle and use it as a guide to help them with whatever issues and concerns they will eventually face. I will now create an acronym using the letters of the term apo. A, for acknowledge. We must acknowledge our past and the present. We must acknowledge the struggle and issues that affect our Filipino community. We have to be mindful of our surroundings and everything that is happening in our community as well as the world. P, prioritize. We must prioritize these issues and concerns, such as racism, public health, cultural identity, and ask ourselves, what can we do to address and shed some light on them? Taking the what is and then thinking about what it should be. We need to stop being so reserved, be more assertive, and question things when things seem like it's not right. O, organize. We can't do this alone. It'll take a community to make these changes. Get involved with the community, be activists, and demand for change. Organize events such as this one to create a space for people to discuss issues, share their knowledge and experiences, and hopefully we can come up with solutions to break these barriers that are blocking us from our voices being heard and reaching our highest potential. In conclusion, we must take all the information we've learned this weekend and continue to have about these issues concerning our Filipino community. Some of the conversations will be difficult, but it's needed to move forward. Let's take control of our narrative. Agbiag. Mahalo, maraming salamat, and agyaman ak launay. Thank you.
Thank you, Manong Dean. That was a very powerful closing remark from you, and we should definitely take into consideration that APO as acknowledgement, the prioritization and organization in our daily lives, and perpetuate this so that other Filipinos who are having this like identity crisis would feel empowered to embrace being their Filipino. And again, thank you very much for all your support in this event. You've been there from the very beginning, and you're the perfect person to wrap this all up. The rest of the organizers are also gonna save their few pieces, say thank you and what they've learned about this on this conference. For me, I would want to personally thank everyone again for attending our two-day conference, and we really appreciate your time and effort for coming in here. We know it's a Saturday and a Sunday, and you came in as early as 9 o'clock. And so just a little bit of looking back, hence the word Baliktanaw. Baliktanaw really came about when Chachi was somewhat having almost like an existential crisis and came to me. She was seeing that she was having this sort of like an imposter syndrome. And what was brought up in our conversation is that how about we go back to our roots and start from there. So let's look behind. Hence the word Baliktanaw happened, meaning looking back. So we're really, really happy that this event happened, and there was very active participation from not just from our panelists and speakers, but also our participants. Again, we really appreciate your time. And just some parting words, like Tita Amy said, or Dr. Amy said yesterday, let us be vigilant. Let's keep that fire and stand up for being Filipino. Also, embrace your Filipino identity. Embrace it and embrace it proudly. Again, thank you very much for coming to our conference. I think Chachi is gonna say some things in here, and all of you have a good weekend.
Yes, thank you again, Manong Dean. Thank you everyone. Thank you for making this conference happen. I just wanted to just say last few words about this conference. This wouldn't have happened again without the support of everyone. And again, it's very, the message that we can take from this weekend is it's so important to really go back to our history, really go back to where we came from in order for us to really acknowledge like what we have went through. And furthermore, for this, if for those who are wanting to get the recordings after the conference, we will be emailing you guys after. And as always, to encourage everyone to help out the community in the Philippines, we encourage you guys to donate to Kabataan Alliance and NAFCON. And as always, we will be sending out a post survey for this conference. And if you want to see more like this, please fill out the survey. Thank you, everyone. Agyaman kami kada kayo unay. And we are now